Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Hardy Fiber Cement Siding is proven to withstand water, pests, and fire better than wood-based siding. And it looks better while doing it. Hardy Siding has been chosen for 10 million homes and counting. See the proof at jameshardy.com.
Montage put together by mad producer Eric Nordquist, producer of 9 to Noon. All right, 3-2. And I'm Paul Allen. All right, hold on.
Man, I didn't mean to choke you up on a Wednesday morning.
No, that's all right. The KO contract has us all choked up. And all righty, let's get some things straight to begin 9 to Noon. And good morning. Great job with the Stevie Wonder montage there. The con.
Cheers.
The money we don't know with KO. The money we don't know with KO. The money we don't know with KO. And I don't care. Do you care? Does anybody care? Do you care that we don't know the money with KO and probably won't know the money with KO? But you know what? 9 to Noon, we'll have an opportunity in the 2025 season on Tuesdays when we sit down with Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, to chat for 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes and record X's and O's. For Nordo to just say, hey, by the way, that deal you got, how much does it average yearly? That opportunity's right in front of anybody who wants to know or wants to solve the money we don't know with KO. The money we don't know with KO. What do you think? I don't care.
Well, I don't care. The only thing that matters here is that KO is okay with the money that he just received from the Minnesota Vikings as part of that contract extension.
Reach.
This was less than, 6-7 hours after we're hearing news about, and we're talking in studio with Ben Gessling about new head coach Ben Johnson of the Chicago Bears. And there were some lofty numbers being thrown around and how that might impact the types of contract extension negotiations in other places, including Minnesota. We didn't have to wait long for that. It wasn't, sweating it out for weeks or even multiple days, how quickly this thing went from rumor mills on a Sunday with a lot on the line to just a couple of weeks after the conclusion of the season, something being consummated, something being agreed to.
People thinking that there's going to be a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders for Max Crosby, some guard we've never heard of, and 4 Raiderettes to be named later.
I've never been a person. It's not. I feel it sometimes when you interact with fans and as a rube myself. It doesn't. I'm not envious. I don't dig into the money details.
Right.
If I'm articulating that the right way, where it doesn't matter to me. But I know that even if we're splitting hairs between 13 million or 15 million, these are life-changing dollar amounts that we're discussing regardless.
Right.
I think we can steal it from an old quarterback's philosophy. It's not about the dollars, it's what the dollars represent. And if the coach feels confident, if the coach feels comfortable and respected and put in a platform where he believes that he's being properly compensated to be the head coach of the Vikings, then that's all that matters for my stretch. I'm just happy, KO's, that we can wash our hands of this and move on.
Ben Johnson was mentioned, new coach of the Chicago Bears. What if Ben housed $13 million per, and Camp KO was like, 13 and $1 more, or we're pulling our tickets.
I always love that one.
Maybe they were like, let me get this straight. Frank Reich got around $9 million a year, and he's not even coaching anymore. Let's start there.
I always love that one.
LaFleur supposedly is somewhere around $6 million per year. O'Connell probably blew by that number the way his squad swept the old Matty L. Green and gold during the old 2024.
I always love that one.
But numbers we don't know for KO. Numbers we don't know for KO. Years on top of 2025. No idea. Now 9 to Noon. At least yours truly. cares about that one because if said leader is really good, we want to know when to sweat and why. And if said leader is some L, well, then it's kind of like a divorce and you're paying maintenance. So like getting squared, sorry to get all dark, but I mean, getting squared away on like the length of it.
Yeah.
I mean, 9 to noon has no idea. We don't dig into things like that. We wait for, say, the scribe, young Alec, Doogie, or old school Seifert to solve that puzzle. We're just going to sit back and wait for that, aren't we, the con?
Yeah, in terms of, we were talking just kind of casually about this. 3-year extension, 4 more total years, whatever it is, clearly both sides are excited about it.
Bottom line, as yours truly, goes with Kevin O'Connell. I could not enjoy his joy-first approach and his role of reviving the spirit in the building the way he and his group have any more than I do. I've mentioned it in passing before. You know, like the back talk, the small-minded, overt blame game is way down or non-existent with the Minnesota Vikings, specifically the coaches. He's smart. Players love him. He relates well. He relates well with the players, and he's led them to 34 victories in his first 3 years. Now, Kevin doesn't peacock like he's Newt Rockney when they win a bunch in a row, and doesn't shut down like a bipolar me-first fool when they lose and he doesn't get his way. He burns with a desire to improve, and all of us as fans, it just, we as fans pulling for the team, that's one thing, and when the team gets bounced, doesn't feel great from a distraction factor standpoint, but it must really hurt a man who has won a Super Bowl to win 14 games and not get past the first round. And even though 9 to noon firmly believes it's more about Jimmys and Joes than X's and O's, Kevin O'Connell knows he needs to continue to mature as a play caller and gain more reps and experience and ideas, no matter where they are found. He and his staff also, they got some cold-blooded to them and are looking to dagger teams with the long ball on a down-by-down basis. How about this? How about some talkbacks and or texts regarding the Kevin O'Connell extension news, Vikings-related talkers, what you would like to see moving forward? You can voice pleasure and or joy and or appreciation for what has transpired with the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and we will play them. We will pay them off and play them back and or read them around 10 o'clock. Talkback's free iHeartRadio app, very easy to navigate, and the text would be via 64686. 64686. Now, also part of the analysis is 0-2 in playoff games.
Yep.
And 0-1 when coaching to win the Conference 1 seed. Now, the 0-2 in playoff games, absolutely a factor in the talker. The ballyhooed 34 wins, 13 wins out of the gate, the Dobbs trick, the hospital balls, the BYU rookie getting yanked before halftime, the 14 wins. It all heads into this jambalaya of a talker. But the 0-2 in the postseason definitely is sticking there right in front of all of us, including the newly extended head coach. But, you know, for me, when it comes to the 0-2 in the playoff games and 0-1 when coaching to win the Conference 1 seed, specifically with the latter, when the quarterback misses 5 touchdowns that should have been housed, coaching gets a pass for me when it comes to the Motown misery. The Rams game, nah. He and the squad got whipped by a team I think beats Philly if the field doesn't come up bad.
Ooh.
So they caught the Rams at a difficult time, and they got whipped. They got whooped. And that's part of the analysis of everything that's transpired with this extension. How do you not get whooped again? How do you make sure the next quarterback or the quarterback doesn't miss 5 touchdowns in the newest, biggest game of your head coaching career? Kevin O'Connell right now should be considered like one of the best between the 20s head coaches, and that's not a shot. It plays into the playoff record in the game at Detroit. like the red zone of the profession, winning in the playoffs, is the next step in a legacy that clearly is heading the right way and in a hurry. So good for him and his family, and the long hours and sacrifices required with the job. Elite when the good guys get paid. Thus, Covenant claps from 9 to noon. Kevin O'Connell and his Covenant for the hard work and the sacrifices, the wins, and getting paid. All of that is courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon does include Minnesota Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch joining us around the corner. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com after that. And alas, there's much more. I'm Paul Allen, Nordo produces, and Chris Finch joins us from Dallas next. But first, the money grab.
Yeah, you want to grab some money. Speaking of cash, right? We got contract extensions. How about the idea of getting $1,000 put in your hand with KFAN in the National Cash Contest? Go to KFAN.com and you enter the keyword here as I feverishly try to find it. The keyword is bills. You can pay some bills. If you win $1,000 with the keyword bills, just enter that at KFAN.com. Coach Finch is next.
Paul Allen, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, PA. How are you?
Good. Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Thanks to Second Harvest Heartland at twoharvest.org. We also thank Prize Picks. Hey, Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell just signed a well-deserved contract extension. When you received your new deal like 6 months ago, is one of the first thoughts for a head coach, like, I mean, of course you're happy, but how can I fix everything at once and prove I'm worthy of this faith?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's it's you're full of gratitude, and also you feel like they've entrusted the franchise to you, and you want to be the best that you possibly can be, and continue to do what you're doing, and just keep building on it.
It's a difficult role, getting to know you and working next to Kevin. There are a lot of hours and sacrifices and things like that. And, you're 22 and 21 this year. You of course, would like more wins, and you'll get them. O'Connell got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. Of course, he doesn't like that. But really, every single day, don't you just feel blessed to do the job of head coaching a pro sports team?
Oh, no doubt about it. I always say I'm one of the lucky 1%ers in the world who gets to do something that they absolutely love to do. It doesn't feel like you have a job. It feels like you're working on your passion. It comes with a ton of sacrifices. It comes with a ton of pressure, and it's all consuming. It can ruin even the good parts of your life at times if you let it. But we're lucky to do it, and I'm sure Kevin at some point in his life, never imagined really being here or in this position, but that makes it even more special sometimes when you step back and you're able to think about your journey and where you are and how you got there and how lucky you are to work with such great athletes and such first-class organizations.
No doubt about that, ma'am. And for Chris's team, Dallas tonight, what the heck got into Daniel Gafford on MLK Day? 31 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 blocks. Holy cow.
Well, when you lose a guy like Luka, you have to reinvent yourself as you go along. And, of course, it means, you're going to need guys to step up, and maybe you have to change the way you play, and they've done a good job of that. They've altered the way they've played stylistically. They used to be one of the top pick-and-roll teams in the league. With Luka, now their pick-and-roll rate is more near the bottom. They play a little bit more, in ISOs and post-ups and featuring guys and trying to get guys back to their game where they can, really, kind of maximize all their individual pieces, if you will. So he's got a good touch. He's, can get to his left shoulder, make the jump hook. He's always been pretty bouncy. And, he's perfect for what they do alongside Luka, but he's also got a little bit more game than than they've been able to use in that system. So they've changed their system a little bit, which gives them opportunities to feature him, and he's taking advantage.
With that Memphis game, Jaren Jackson seems to be having the best season of his career. I didn't know he was good with his right hand. All right, now most of them are ambidextrous, or they've worked on it super hard so that they can go both ways. But I mean, like late in the game when Julius down by the block forced him to the right side and got him down to the baseline, I'm like, yeah, look at this. And then Triple J comes up with this right-hander, this push shot that goes in. That was crazy.
Yeah, he's a heck of a player. He is really having I wouldn't say a breakout year because he's definitely been a star player for a number of years, but he's having a career year. And to that point, we were sitting on that left hand trying to take it away, and we were late on our rotation when he did come back to the right, but he's able to score at all ranges, make the three, drive you, has that floater, can score in the post, and he has great size too. And with kind of a gangly game, he's coming at you and spinning off you, but he has an incredible touch. So he's a very gifted player at both ends of the floor.
We, Chris, we mentioned earlier, 22 and 21, but for what it's worth, I'm an outsider, man. It's my opinion, but I watch all the games. I like how you guys are playing right now. I mean, I can see incremental progress so that the fluidity of things is starting to look like it looked last year when it got really good, especially McDaniels and Naz Reid. Do you like how it's progressing? And what are you liking about the aforementioned two?
Yeah, I do. I do like how it's progressing. I think, offensively, we look way better. We're scoring easier. We're generating better shots. We're playing with pace. The guys are moving the ball. They're understanding spacing. I think Jaden's really playing well. He's doing a lot of little things, not just relying on whether a shot goes in. Naz looks like he's back to his old self with his scoring confidence for sure. But Julius has not had big scoring nights of late, but he's really creating a lot of good shots. I mean, kind of playing through him in his lineups. Anthony's doing a better job of accepting the balance of when to be aggressive versus certain types of defenses, when to get off of it. For me, it's just about closing games now. Now we struggle to close games. And that's a variety of things, mistakes, execution, shot making down the stretch. We got to be a little bit better in all those categories. But we've been playing well. We've been able to control large parts of these games. Hopefully we can start finishing them off.
Other side of the equation, and with respect, how in the heck can a guy Rudy's size manage just 2 defensive rebounds at Memphis? What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be better for us right now. I think it's one place where we need him to get back to his old self for sure. I think there's a lot of size, there's a lot of bodies coming at you, and with Memphis, and he probably got tangled up with them, but he's got to free himself, go get the glass, he's not his best self, and he knows it. So we're going to challenge him to get back to where we need him to be the team that we know we can be.
You and after the Memphis game, you said rebounding of late has been a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course I'm going to defer to what you say. You know 1,000 times more about it than me. But does hooking the high end Memphis size group and the Cavaliers size they offer with Allen and Mobley, does that play into it, or is something missing here?
Yeah, I think that there are certainly times where we are small and smaller than we, let's say, were last year. Cat was a very good rebounder, and he was 7 foot tall, so he gave us, added length and rebounding. And we felt like we always had that out there. 2 years ago, we struggled to rebound the ball. Cat missed 50 games. So there's some correlation there. I do think this is some of when you get, to the things that we can control. I do feel like, we got to go get the ball in the air. I've been saying this for a few weeks now. Like, we try to rebound on the ground, and even though I think guys are trying to box out and carve out space because maybe they think they're giving up size, but at the end of the day, it's still it's an in the air contest, and we got to go get it in the air. It's one thing Dante DiVincenzo does so well for a small. He really competes in the air. I think that would really help Rudy right now in particular. And, just we got to go get the ball. Some of it just comes down to that pursuit of the ball.
Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, weekly 9 to noon. Thank you, Second Harvest Heartland and twoharvest.org. Also, Prize Picks. Dillingham turned 20 2.5 weeks ago. What's it like raising him from a dominating college guy to a responsible, game-changing pro?
Yeah, listen, he's playing really well for us now, so we're super excited about that, and hopefully he can just continue to build on it. And we know there'll be ups and downs, and we're committed to his development. It's been fun, it really has been. Pablo Prigioni works with him on a daily basis. He's lucky to have a guy like that. He's lucky to have a guy like Mike Conley to play alongside of, all of his teammates really, really love him. Like when he goes into the game, you can just see the energy and the intensity pick up on the offensive end for sure. And he's just got to stay patient with it all. If he's at a different team, like a rebuild team, he probably is playing a lot more minutes, has a bigger role, but it's this path for him. He doesn't realize it right now, but it'll probably be a way better one for him. And now that we're 40 games into the season and he's going to have a more consistent role, it's his time to seize the opportunity to just keep building on that.
Edwards, the alpha, best player on the team. He just seems to absolutely adore the kid. It's like Anthony's not that much older than Dillingham, but he puts his arm around him like he's a surrogate dad. When Dillingham and Edwards are on the floor together, what are you expecting from those two when they're together?
Well, it gives us two guys who really have, command to go somewhere with the ball, and get to the heart of the defense, make a play. Both of them can score it, Rob gives us a pace, really good pace. Those guys will continue to develop a good chemistry and continue to understand how to play off each other well. Ant's always been outstanding at rooting for his teammates, being the biggest cheerleader for all these guys. He's also imparting some experiences, that he had when he was young and had to kind of work and wait through his opportunities. And once they come, as long as you make the best of them, they keep coming.
Dillingham hasn't played a ton until of late, but he's yet to get to the foul line. That's crazy. The whole season hasn't been to the foul line. Does he need to play more downhill?
Well, he does get that. He's downhill, but he's got a really good in-between game. He got the runner and the floater, and when he does get to the hoop, it's usually wide open. I think it's important for all guards in the league right now to understand how to draw fouls, and that'll be a big part of his development coming up. Is how do you get to the free throw line more consistently?
A couple more here. I know you got a bus to catch for the morning shoot. And lastly, on Dillingham, clearly super fast with the ball and quite gifted. Mm-hmm. From what you've seen during your career, Chris, what are some challenges a 20-year-old faces adapting to games against veterans like, say, Kyrie Irving tonight?
Well, listen, if you put aside the skill and experience and the strength of those older guys, those established stars that you're going to face. I think when you watch these guys on TV, you're growing up, of course you admire them. You may even steal from their game. And when you're a top 10 pick and a great prospect and talented young player like Rob, like you feel like you can, you're as good as these guys. And that's great. That's a lot of the confidence that these guys need and have carried them to where they are now. When you get up close and personal, you realize that they're a lot better maybe than you even thought. And the biggest thing that young players need to learn is just the speed at which the game, everything that's happening, it may not be just around Kyrie. It'll be, off the ball, the movement, the spacing, the speed at which someone closes you down. Like, It's all just so much different than what you're used to, and it's starting to really slow down for Rob, and you can see that, and that's why he's starting to feel more comfortable and play better out there. And so I'd say it's more just the whole floor rather than just the star players that are out there.
Yeah, that is interesting because, at Madison Square Garden, he's playing against Brunson. He was in high school when he watched Jalen play in college, and then you got Garland and Mitchell, and you got Kyrie tonight, who Rob's watched a ton and probably loves his game. It's kind of like back when you were 20 years old, wanting to coach like Gene Shue, Billy Cunningham, and or Dick Motta. That helps you relate to him, right?
Well, I think the last thing I would say about that is Rob's got to be ready because they're going to come at him. They're going to try to exploit him, and that's one thing all season long. What I've been most pleased and impressed with is his fight defensively has been really good. Now he, particularly on the ball, off the ball is where a lot of these young guys struggle because, like I said, the movement, the concepts, the rotations, all that's maybe so very different and so fast at the NBA level from where they've come from. But his on-ball compete has been really good, and even though he's giving up size and strength, that's where it starts for me, and that kind of gives me an indication of how much you care about defense.
Conley's 37% in January. So do you just have to wait that out, or is there a problem?
Nah, these things come back around. I do. I think. I've been recently, particularly in the start games, he's been scoring well. When he does, we play even better than that we're at our best. So we need him to continue to be aggressive. I think once he gets back to being fully more comfortable, just being the scorer and being more aggressive. There were times the other night in the Memphis game where I thought he, turned some shots down to be a playmaker, which is who he is naturally. But if he's more aggressive there, he makes a few shots, I think it's different. And that's what we need from him right now.
Last one, from 22 and 21. It's fact that you're a winning streak. You guys are a winning streak from jumping teams in the West and moving up to the 5 spot. Do the players see that and how are they handling the topsy-turvy nature of the season?
Yeah, the players definitely see that when we talk about it quite a bit, how close it is and the meaningful nature of every single game. It's a little bit of a two-edged sword, though, PA, because, right now with the way the league is, and particularly in the West, it's just every night just feels like it's must-win and super meaningful game, which is what you want from all competition. But, the NFL is different. Like, NFL is 17 do or die weeks, and the mentality to prepare for that is way different. When you're playing 82 games and you have to mentally prepare for 82 must wins, that's unusual in the league. Normally there's more strata in the league where you can have off nights and win. It doesn't mean you don't put the effort in. It's just like mentally you're not always going to have it. So I think this year more than ever, the league is kind of suffering from just this mental fatigue from all the parity that's in it, because the NBA is just not wired. I think I'm not sure it's even mentally healthy to play 82 must-win games in 6 months period. So
wonderful chat. Have fun this morning at the shoot-around, and best of luck tonight, all right?
All right, thanks, PA. Appreciate you.
Yep, see you, bud. Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, weekly 9 to noon. We love that. Courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland, 2harvest.org. Chris is a board member for Second Harvest Heartland, and also our friends at Prize Picks. Mike Florio, PFT, we is next.
Taxes was waiting around for your taxes to be done, which led to worrying about not getting any money back. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes in a day to get you up to $4,000 fast with a refund advance loan. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Expert filing only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Refund advance has $0 loan fees and 0% APR. Refund advance loans may be issued by First Century Bank, N.A. or Web Bank. Terms apply. Subject to approval.
F-T.
You are one of the biggest suck-ups I know.
P.
There's something wrong with you.
F
How do I not get into that collection of drops?
T.
Oh my gosh.
Good morning, Mike Florio. It's Paul Allen at KFAN. How are you?
I am doing great, Paul Allen. It is probably colder here in West Virginia than it's been in Minneapolis lately. We got down to -9.
Oh, geez.
-9 Monday night into Tuesday, and it was -6 when I woke up this morning to start PFT Live.
Is that abnormal for West Virginia?
Yes, it rarely gets under zero here. The last time I remember having to go around the house and a little trickle of water flow was right about the time Florida State and Jameis Winston won the national championship. That's been, 12, 13 years? So it's been a while that it's been this cold.
That the at Pro Football Talk on Twitter, the Nosferatu-like icicles, the fingers. If you don't mind me asking, what part of your house is that? Because I had them right in front of my garage. Then just a little insulation within the attic and the garage solved the whole thing.
We've got them all over the house, all around.
Oh, geez.
And that's the one that looks like the Nosferatu fingers. We've got them in different forms and different configurations wherever the gutters might be. We've knocked them off in the past, and once it warms up a little bit to get out there, we'll knock them off again. But it is what it is, man. It's that time of year. And by the way, last week I had a little mishap. Did we talk about this when I was on with you?
Quickly, Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, author, several books, Father and Son of Mine. Learn more about the books at ProFootballTalk.com. No, what did I miss?
99-cent ebooks, by the way, on Amazon, Father of Mine, Son of Mine, on our way home. My driver who brings me home from the airport in Pittsburgh, it's about an hour and a half drive, got back Tuesday, the day after the Vikings lost to the Rams, took one foot out of the vehicle, and down I went violently. And I was very impressed that I thought I had cat-like reflexes to prevent a far worse outcome than it could have been. I banged my knee, banged my elbow, banged my shoulder. Everything's fine now. Not that anyone cares. But when I watched the Ring camera video, I realized I had no control over any of it. The domino fell, and it fell where it would, and I just got lucky I didn't bust my head.
Did in loving fashion, did your wife laugh?
No, she was horrified by it. Now, I do have family members who, when I sent it to them with the preface, I'm okay, I had one who I think watched it on a loop for 35 minutes.
Well, of course.
And just laughed the whole time.
Of course. Why at Pro Football Talk, how come we haven't seen it?
How come we haven't seen what? You have to come watch the show.
No, on Twitter. I mean, the Ring cam, I'm sure you can cut it up, get it on Twitter, and open up the comments and see which way it goes.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in doing that.
Now, speaking of comments and Twitter and stuff like that, it's all over the place. The suspense, the speculation, it's all done. Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings have united on a less than surprising contract extension. Now, a couple of things here. Do you break down the actual value of coaches' deals the way you do players? And just overall, what do you think of all this?
Well, first of all, the players' deals are easier to get for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the actual contract itself ends up being filed with the league, filed with the NFL Players Association, and the numbers are available, and I have the network in place that I get them. If I need the full contract, I can get it. If I need the breakdown that some of the agencies do, I can get it, and we can do the whole inside the insert name of player deal. With coaches, that stuff is very zealously guarded by the teams, by the league. And the other dynamic for the higher paid coaches, and this is all part of what I believe, can't prove it, but if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I believe there's been a long-term play by the owners to hold the market down. No salary cap, no salary floor, no union, no way to ensure that they're not keeping what ultimately eats into the profit margin as low as it can be. Because when you think about it, okay, there are 100 players making more than $19 million in the NFL right now. A great coach is worth more than a mid-level quarterback who's making $25 million a year. So the coaches should be making more, and I believe if we had access to all the numbers over the past 50 years, we would see that the growth in player salary has been exponentially higher than coaches. And for the high-end coaches, what they will do, there's an official amount that gets paid to the coach by the team, and then the owners have these other vehicles for funneling extra money. And because there's no salary cap, there's no violation. They just pay it to them, and nobody ever knows the truth. And when the truth is obscured, it's easier to keep the numbers down for like entry level, which is an issue potentially now in Chicago because Ben Johnson, I'm told, the word around the league, I've heard it from several people, $13 million a year. That's about $5 million higher than entry level. And I have a feeling it's not a coincidence that one day after Johnson got his contract, boom, Kevin O'Connell's deal gets done. Somebody in Minnesota realizes we got to pay this in order to make this problem go away.
So with the what's next plan with the Vikings, Mike Florio, PFT, are you expecting them to follow suit and soon with the general manager Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah?
Well, absolutely. Mark Wolf told, I believe, the Star Tribune before the Week 18 game that the plan is to get through the season and sign both guys. The fact that they started with O'Connell underscores the reality that there was tension, there was an issue, there was a problem because he didn't get his deal after year 2, wasn't happy about it, he'd never say it. There are certain things that people can't say and won't say out loud because the fan base will lose its mind. And already the fan base is losing its mind by the mere suggestion there was an issue. And to anyone who thinks the fact that they did a deal means there wasn't an issue, as I said last night on Twitter, how did you ever pass the written exam for a driver's license? It doesn't prove there wasn't an issue. The speed with which it was done, if anything, tends to prove there was an issue, because otherwise they could have waited. There's no urgency. He's got 1 year left under his contract. There are other coaches out there entering the last year of their deal, and they'll probably get an extension before the season starts. This one needed to happen now because from the Vikings' perspective, if Kevin O'Connell was serious about coaching out his contract and becoming a free agent and walking away with no compensation whatsoever, you have to at least consider the possibility of getting the compensation now, making a deal, sending him to another team, and moving on. The Vikings didn't want to do that. At the end of the day, though, they had to blink, and they had to pay whatever O'Connell was looking for. And it's possible he bent a little bit and gave a little bit. That's what a negotiation is. The best negotiation results with both sides being a little bit pissed off about the final result. But still, I firmly believe that this got done quickly because it needed to get done quickly because the Vikings and O'Connell needed to know what the game is going into what would have been the last year of his contract.
I 9 to noon, and yours truly, I don't care about the cash, the term. So you got 2025. I mean, like, any idea, how many years on top of 2025, or is that just something for which we wait?
Well, they announced it as a multi-year extension. So multi-year means more than one. 1 year was left. At a minimum, it's 3 years. I don't know what it is beyond that, and I haven't heard what it is beyond that. And in the past, it's been fully guaranteed for the full term of the deal for most teams. But starting about 10, 12 years ago, Rex Ryan got an extension that wasn't fully guaranteed. So that just means it's a team option at that point, and they can get out of it without having to owe a buyout. And there are plenty of owners out there who don't want to pay the buyout. Jerry Jones doesn't want to pay the buyout. Mike Brown doesn't want to pay the buyout. I remember when they fired Marvin Lewis with a year left on his contract, I was like, wait a minute, the Bengals don't do this. Well, the last year on his contract wasn't guaranteed, so that makes it easier to walk away. Teams would love, if they could, whenever they could, to walk away without owing anyone extra money to not coach the team, because that just, again, chews into the profit margin. With the salary cap and the salary floor for players, those expenses are set. All the other expenses are variable. And when you start having buyout after buyout after buyout, and then you're paying coaches more and more money, that all eats directly into the cash that the owners take away from the team when it's all said and done in the form of profit. And that doesn't get talked about because the tagline is football is family. And those things undermine the idea that football is family. The reality is football is business, but we say football is family because it's good for business to say football is family. At the end of the day, football is business, and fans of football teams don't want to hear that the same way that wrestling fans used to bristle anytime anyone would say it's all rigged, it's all staged, it's all faked, and when they finally admitted it, they were like, okay, we still like it. But this is the firewall in the NFL. It's all about competition and pursuing a Super Bowl and greatness and yada, yada. It's a business. One team wins the Super Bowl, 32 teams win the balance sheet.
football feast.
How about the dismantling of this Lions staff? Ben Johnson to the Bears, probably bringing Hank Fraley with him to be the OC. Defensive line coach is off to New England. Aaron Glenn seems like the heavy favorite to become the next Jets coach. He was the defensive coordinator. How could this impact their 2025 season?
Well, I'm not convinced the Jets aren't going to blow this with Aaron Glenn, but either way, I think it's Jets or Saints for him. And when he walked out of the building yesterday, it reminded me of when the Jets let Antoine Winfield out of the building some 21 years ago, and he ended up flying to Minnesota and signing a deal there. You can't let the guy you want get out of the building.
Right.
And the Jets have this attitude, we feel like we shouldn't have to recruit anybody. Well, at some point you need to if you want to get the guy that you have targeted. So the Lions are going to be left with a shell of what they had. It's going to be a challenge for Dan Campbell to reload the staff on the fly. And this whole Ben Johnson thing, and let me ask you this, Sims and I argued about this today. The speed with which Johnson landed in Chicago, and when he walks through the door and he tells the employees at Hallis Hall, this is where I wanted to be all along.
Yep.
Like, if you're a Lions fan, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the admission that this guy who defected in the division had been planning this at the time he was planning how to beat the Commanders in the playoffs? I just don't think it would sit well with the fans. I think the Bears and Johnson should have waited a couple of days. Let the Lions fans process better this disappointing and sudden thud that was their supposed Super Bowl season. I just think that it's going to increase some tensions between the teams, and man, it's going to make for some must-see TV when the Lions and Bears get together twice next year.
Their Vox Dan Miller, 20 years into it, good friend of mine. He was on the radio show yesterday, and we talked about that for 3 minutes. I mean, fans are incensed that he left that quickly to a division rival. Now, I'll occasionally look at some comments on the X machine, like, including things you post or others post, and that's just the nature of fan these days. Generally speaking, the kindness quotient that you offered is noble, but I mean, it flies in the face of the Steely business where they just want to leave and get to the next one and try to make the next one better. So the fan base with the Lions, right? I think it's wrong, but they're infuriated he left that quickly and went to a division rival.
It's another one of the disconnects about football. The fans are the people who fuel the revenue engine. The fact that they're passionate and zealous, the fact that they can't get enough of their favorite teams and they live and die. It's a family member.
Right.
I'm sure some Vikings fans contemplated while witnessing the collapse of a promising season over the past few weeks with a 58-18 combined score against the Lions, with the 1 seed right there staring them in the face, and then the chance to advance to the divisional round right there staring them in the face. You go through the whole, well, you know what, I really would like to dump this team, but you can't. The fans are tied to their teams. They're family members. You cannot do it.
Right.
The coaches have no loyalty to any one team. Rarely, if ever, do you find the guy who was a fan of the Steelers growing up, who decided, all I ever want to do is work for the Steelers, gets his foot in the door with the Steelers as a quality control coach, works his way up. He's waiting for his ship to come in as a head coach. And by then, you don't care where it is. You want to be a head coach. And if all of a sudden you're the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, the team you hated, the Baltimore Ravens, the team you despised, that you loathed, you want to be a head coach. And coaches very quickly shed one color and put on the other. And that's what they do. That's just the nature of the business. I am in team me if I'm a coach. I am in a team my family, achieving my goals, my objective. There's 32 of these jobs, and the job at the team that I'd like to coach isn't open. So I better take one that is.
Yeah.
It's just awkward when it happens in the division. It's not unprecedented. Happened last year. Dan Quinn goes from the Cowboys to the Commanders. Happened last year. Dave Canales goes from the Bucs to the Panthers. But it just doesn't sit well when it occurs that quickly. And I can't remember, it's been 30 years now, when Tony Dungy jumped from the Vikings to the Buccaneers. I can't remember what the reaction was in Minnesota, and I don't know that it happened so quickly. The Vikings didn't make the playoffs in 95. I remember they had a chance, I think, against Cincinnati, end of the season, and that's when it all fell apart. It was the first year under Denny Green they didn't make the playoffs, and then out went Tony Dungy. But it's just, an aspect of this that there needs to be a sensitivity by the coach, that as you walk out the door, if you've created the impression you sprinted out the door and you couldn't wait to get out the door to sign a contract with a division rival, that is something that's going to leave a mark for the fans of the team you left behind. It's unavoidable.
All right, so when it comes to these coveted jobs, like, who in the heck wants to coach the Raiders and why?
Good question. Well, and I think at the end of the day, and I don't know this, but just as we try to keep our finger on the pulse of this coaching carousel that goes from being a spinning dervish to a game of musical chairs, and it's a two-way game of musical chairs. There's only so many coaches for the jobs available. There's only so many jobs available for the coaches who want them, and the music starts to stop. And Tom Brady, by all indications, really wanted Ben Johnson. But when you look at that division, you got the Chargers, you got the Broncos, you got the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. You've got three great coaches who have all made it to Super Bowls, and two of the three have won Super Bowls, and one of them has won multiple Super Bowls. You got the Raiders with an empty cupboard, but for Max Crosby and Brock Bowers of high-end talent. What do? You don't have a quarterback. Well, in most years, hey, we'll just draft one of the best ones. Oh, wait a minute, the quarterbacks this year aren't as good as they were last year. Who are we going to find in free agency? What are we going to do? So that makes it a challenge. And also this idea of the front office and ownership. They don't have a GM there yet. And you've got two owners minimum you're going to have to deal with in Las Vegas. Mark Davis, the guy who owns enough of the team to be in charge. And then you got Tom Brady, who is de facto in charge because Mark Davis has basically said, hey, Tom, I don't know what I'm doing. You do. Take over. So it doesn't make an attractive job. And the current talk is that's where Pete Carroll's going to land. Who knows what happens? But when you look at the people they interviewed after Ben Johnson was off the board, Pete Carroll's the only name that just kind of cries out as guy who has proven he can get it done. If he wants to come back and coach, and if you just want to coach, again, you'll put on whatever logo you need to put on. If you really want to coach and there's one job that wants you and you really want to coach, you just take that job.
I have to ask you this before we say goodbye. Philly, with NBC's Football Night in America. What was Philly like, given you were there with NBC? And were the fans all nasty, vulgar, and vile, like, F you, Florio? I saw what you wrote about Sirianni 2 years ago.
Well, sooner than 2 years ago, and we've written some things about Big Dom, the guy who's maybe one step below Rocky Balboa in Philadelphia.
Right.
And I've said about Nick Sirianni, he's got the demeanor of a guy who is a fan who won the contest to be coach of the team for a day. And, yeah, I've been candid about my opinions about them and every team. And I was surprised that I didn't get any of the business from the stands as we walked out to our position, and the fans who had field-level pregame access, I talked to a bunch of them. They were nice. They were friendly. Now, they gave Sims the business. One of them was giving Matthew Berry the business for following his advice in fantasy and it not working out. But they were nice to me and took some pictures with him. It might have been, and I'm still waiting for the image to emerge on social media of the guy I'm taking the picture with giving me the finger. We've seen that happen to others in the past. But it was a good experience. I love the passion of the Philly fan base. And I also think that, for like the Vikings fans, and I think this happened to a certain extent in Seattle, once you finally get the thing you have craved for so long, some of that passion gets covered over by the satisfaction of getting to the top of the mountain and planting a flag. In Philly, the fact that they got one has made them more determined to get two. And if anything, they've gotten more passionate and more vocal and more zealous. But that's what you want in fans, and that's what the NFL wants in fans. You don't want them to cross the line. And we saw examples during the wild card game of a guy who crossed the line and has been banned for life from Lincoln Financial Field. But the folks I dealt with were pleasant, and I know my bar wasn't real high, but I've had worse experiences in other stadiums, far worse in other stadiums. Not that it's all that bad. Somebody yells, you suck, I just wave and smile. But, yeah, they were fine in Philly.
Glad you got out of that fall, okay, and we'll call you next week. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Paul. See you, buddy.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. Hey, with Kevin O'Connell's extension in the state of the Minnesota Vikings with an extended head coach, talkbacks via the free iHeartRadio app. Next segment, also some texts via 64686, and it's 10:01. Welcome to 9 to Noon.